Queen City News is marking Pride Month, and this year is a big year for the LGBTQ community in North Carolina. This October will mark 10 years since same-sex marriage became legal in the state, and it was 9 months before same-sex marriage became legal nationwide. We're looking back on that moment and what it has meant for so many. Still to this day, Queen City News anchor Derek Dellinger and Queen City News reporter Shakira Speaks sat down with those who fought for that right and those who rushed to get married the moment it became legal.
10 years ago, things were a lot different at the Buncombe County Register of Deeds office in Asheville. It was in another building during a different era in North Carolina when even the thought of same-sex marriage was something that would strike fear in some.
This is a slippery slope that we're heading down, and we just need to know what could very well face us all in the very near future.
But for those who issued marriage licenses and couldn't do it for their own friends and family, it was heartbreaking.
It was incredibly sad, turning down friends and family coming in requesting marriage licenses to be treated equal.
One thing that hasn't changed in that time is Drew Reisinger. He's the Register of Deeds then and now in Buncombe County. The pictures that line the hallways for Pride Month at his office show the uncertainty of a day, October 10th, 2014, which became historic. But to get to that point, it took a lot of work. In the months, weeks, and years leading up to that day, there were referendums like Amendment 1, which voters approved, saying marriage was between a man and a woman. There were also lawsuits, rallies on both sides.
You know, God created Adam and Eve. He did not create Adam and Steve. And he said, go out and replenish the earth. And there's no way that two men can replenish the earth or two women.
Minorities are rights are being trampled on, then the courts need to settle that out, and that's what's happened here.
But it was ultimately a decision that came down from Virginia that set the stage for what happened on that October day in 2014. A couple in Virginia filed suit against the state's ban on same-sex marriage. The ban was ultimately ruled unconstitutional by a district court of appeals, which meant North Carolina's own ban was in jeopardy. That takes us to that day in the Buncombe County Register of Deeds office.
You've got so many people in a room who've been waiting for the announcement that they might be recognized and treated equally under the law. So many of the couples who came to us weren't young couples. So many of the activists were these older couples who'd been together for 40, 50 years.
And then it happened.
To see if there will be a ruling.
Judge Cogburn has signed an order.
It was a Friday after 5. Reisinger and the Register of Deeds in Wake County kept the offices open for people to file for a marriage license. Megan Burke was there that day and helped fight in the courts for same-sex marriage. In that instant, things became so simple for so many.
So before marriage equality, lawyers had to get really creative on how to kind of grab what rights you could and cobble things together to protect your clients. Once marriage equality was recognized, it was really simple. We could do step-parent adoptions.
For Reisinger, an ally, he knows how big of a deal this was, and still is.
It will still always be the greatest moment of my life, being able to tell a room full of activists and incredible humans that same-sex couples will be allowed to get married.
Derek, you were actually in Asheville that day.
Yes, I was, and there were marriages happening on the courthouse steps, and you got to see people who have been together for years embrace and cry over the ability to finally have everything legalized and in their estimation, being treated equally under the law.
And for the couples that married that day, it meant so much to them to have that recognition in North Carolina.
By the power vested in me by the state of North Carolina, I now pronounce you married.
I didn't think that would happen in my lifetime. I thought it would happen one day, but not in my lifetime, and certainly not before I was 60 years old.
Donna Reed and Paula Garrett were married long before the courts handed down the ruling to legalize their union. They opted for a commitment ceremony in 2005 and were legally married in New York when it became legal there. But they wanted a legal recognition in North Carolina. And for them, yes, it was about love, but it was also about security and the rights married couples have.
I didn't want anybody to think of our commitment to each other as any less than theirs if they were in a hetero marriage. But at the time, the most important part for me was protecting our kid. It wasn't just that she needed, if something happened to me, she needed my Social Security, but she would need it to raise him.
So to have this one simple piece of paper that solved it all is sort of mind-blowing in what it achieved.
Megan Burke is now the executive director of the National Women's Soccer League Players Association. But 10 years ago, she was the attorney for the Campaign for Southern Equality.
I remember the arguments that were advanced by those who opposed marriage equality. And a lot of it was, frankly, kind of some hysteria. Like, you know, civilization could collapse if gay people could marry. All these predictions about what could happen. And you know what changed? More people got married and made families. What's not to like about that?
Marriage forms are no longer gender specific since the legalization of same-sex marriage in North Carolina, and same-sex couples continue to redefine what was once considered traditional for married couples.
I'd love to think it's settled law, but after Roe, I don't know if there's such a thing as settled law.
It's almost kind of quaint to think about marriage equality at this point, 10 years in, because I think the fights now are very different and very, very serious. I think life-threatening, frankly.
While same-sex marriage is legal, the fight is far from over. Members of the LGBTQ+ community in the Carolinas are now shifting their focus to the rights of trans people.
The gays getting married with a boogeyman, you know, bathrooms became the boogeyman, trans kids accessing healthcare became the boogeyman, and the secret is there is no boogeyman. There just isn't. They're just people trying to live their lives.
Despite the seriousness of the future, there is reflection on the past and what has brought everyone to this point. Come October 10, 2024, Buncombe County Register of Deeds Drew Reisinger told us what he wants to see to commemorate that day.
A lot of people got married very quickly in fear that it was going to be taken away from them. A lot of people made very quick decisions of, we've got this right, let's do it. And they didn't have time to fully plan out marriage ceremonies. I think the 10th anniversary should be a time that we should all take stock of these relationships and celebrate them.